Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our most humble and prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan, Sri Satya Sai Baba. Ever grateful to Bhagwan for this wonderful opportunity to learn and share this amazing knowledge base termed as Sai Ram Katha, or Rama Gita to be precise. And we have come to almost to the concluding chapters of Rama Gita, and a beautiful journey, and I'm eager to continue with you all. So please start and let's join me in prayer, and we can start our evening program with that. So, O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Om Shri Sai Ram. We have taken this journey with a confession that this topic itself was too big for anyone to even venture into. It is surely the grace of God and a special blessing that we are even able to discuss and bring this beautiful pearl to front of everybody. And I think our offering will be sufficient if all of us get inspired to explore it on our own individual levels too. So we are happy to share with you whatever we are grasping, and we'll be more than happy to see that each one of us can plunge into it independently and take this journey forward. Because this knowledge grows as we explore it together, and independently we can continue our own journey. So let us continue this beautiful evening. And as we are looking at these concluding questions, let me invite my brothers here. So, yes, Sai Jagdish, Sairam brother, welcome to the
Sairam,
evening.
Sairam brothers.
And we have Sri Ranganath Raju brother, Sairam,
Saram brother. Saram brother. Saram brother.
Sairam brothers. So today we are continuing with our concluding phase of Ram Gita, in which Lord Hanuman has taken us, and being a representative of ours in a way, has taken us through a wonderful journey of self-discovery, and in a stage wherein he has reached. And as I was mentioning you before also, Raju, that it's very surprising that even after having the Virat Roop Darshan and getting all the exposure, Lord Hanuman still has certain questions in mind. And I can't help but confess that he is literally playing a best student's role, because he knows that how our mind works. And certainly he does not need that. But the way he has presented to Master is amazing. And the patience in which Bhagwan Ram has responded is another beauty. So now our discussion reaches a stage where Hanuman has presented to another Lord, and he says to Bhagwan that, O Janaki Rama, that Mahasiddhis like Anima, Garima, and all that are the marks of the knowers of Brahman. Enlighten me about them. So this question is very interesting in a way, because this is the normal, I would say, an aspirant would get this thought. And I have been discussing this factor that when God says you are God, we don't know what we are, because we don't have the concept of what exactly God should be. In our concept of mind comes God to be most powerful, God who can do miracles, God who can do some crazy stuff, mind boggling stuff. And that's how we define God. And in that context, if I look at it, it makes perfect, logical sense to say that, Lord, people say, that's what he says, that they say, the knowers of Brahman say, that the mark of these is these siddhis. And we have seen Asht Siddhi Navnidhi ke Data. Hanuman himself is the giver of these things. And imagine the giver of the siddhis is asking Prabhu Ram, tell me about siddhis that I possess. Isn't it sweet? He got it and he's asking the same question as to what have I possessed. So, which means Hanuman got it without pursuing it, and now he's asking Lord, Lord, tell me what it is. Don't you find the question interesting and intriguing from that point of view? That Hanuman, who is the giver of Asht Siddhi Navnidhi, he's asking the Lord, tell me about these siddhis. Because the knower of Brahman say that they are the mark of such people. What do you think about the question before I take you to the answer which Ram gives?
Brother Jagadish, maybe you want to start? I think you're on mute.
Jagdish, you got on mute.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, fine now.
Sairam, sorry. So one thing that we have to notice in this particular question is that he says it is the mark of the Brahma, which is basically the Brahmavit, right? Yeah. So I can hear myself. There is a slight disturbance, which is why, there is an echo.
There's echo.
Yeah.
Do you want to, Jagdish, do you want to relog in just to be
I
on the
can do
safe side? Yeah, just relog in quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Raju, you can continue till then.
Yes.
Raju,
So, brothers,
Jagdish,
this
sorry,
is also. I think the echo is still there.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not hearing any echo, so you can continue.
Okay. I think my end it is loud.
Oh, now I can hear you.
So this is also got to do with Hanuman's own journey, I suppose. We started with that Hanuman who ran around the world along with Sugriva, who was restless, who was kind of having to bear the curse to forget his own strength. Person who had no confidence in his own abilities. So from there, now it is fine. I think from there, this Hanuman, the Hanuman that we see now, is a very different Hanuman. Swami also beautifully describes in through various discourses as to how Hanuman himself got transformed over time. At times, Swami speaks of how before the war started, before they were setting their foot on the bridge, Vibhishana prayed, and Rama sent Hanuman to get a lingam from Himalayas. And Hanuman, who was by then so enamored with his own strength, he could not find an appropriate lingam, that he was late for the puja. And Rama had actually made a lingam out of the sand, and the puja began by the time Hanuman arrived. And Hanuman, realizing that he was late, he just threw away the lingam. And it was in the path of Rama. After the puja was over, Rama wanted to, Swami beautifully described in 1969 discourse. Rama wanted to walk around. He wanted to go, so it was in the path. And this was the same lingam that Hanuman had carried with lot of effort. Nevertheless, he carried all the way from Himalayas. So Rama indicates with his finger to move that lingam aside, and Hanuman, the same Hanuman who got the lingam all the way from Himalayas, now struggles to move this lingam even an inch. He is literally struggling, and Rama effortlessly just pulls it away with his left hand. Swami describes in the discourse, and that is when Hanuman realizes that, oh my God, all this strength is actually of Rama's, it is not me. So like this, there are various, if you go through various instances Swami describes in the discourses, we realize that Hanuman himself is getting transformed. I think this phrase of Ashtasiddhi Navanidike Data is probably of that Hanuman who has transformed completely, who is the knower of Brahman, who is the supreme self. But now the Hanuman that we are seeing right now probably is the student Hanuman, yeah, who is not yet completely blossomed from within. Probably the final traces of the ego are still ego in the sense the individual identity. I don't mean the pride, but the individual, the sense of individual identity probably are still left. And because there is a very beautiful phrase uh, which Dakshinamurti says, and Swami had told one of my juniors. He said, Swami, uh, he was, so Swami was allowing students to ask questions. He was allowing them to ask questions, and Swami was answering them. And it was it was one question, and then Swami would take some time to answer. Then it became two questions, and so boys were kind of firing. The intensity of the questioning was increasing, and one boy had the habit, like, he fired 4 or 5 questions in one question. He packed 4 or 5 questions, and he fired. And Swami gave that smile that, hey, so many questions. So that mischievous smile, and this boy confessing that, Swami, there are a lot of questions in my mind. Swami smiled and said, Parvaledu. Then he made a beautiful statement. He said, questions will cease only when you know the truth. In fact, that is what Dakshinamurti also in one of the slokas is described, that it is the silence he is the most eloquent language that Dakshinamurti spoke, because the knower of the self doesn't need any answers. So probably yes, even though Hanuman is also, in all his wisdom, in compassion, he is also donning the role of a student. But also it is also an indication probably for all the sadhakas that yet that Hanuman of the individual self is yet probably remaining, and maybe that Lord Rama is using that element to teach all of us. And I think it is that Hanuman who is not yet become the Navanidike Data, Ashtasiddhi Navanidike. Now he is asking that trace, probably the small bitter traces are there. Like Swami described that famous episode where he says that Ramana Maharshi had told this in Trai, uh, that Ramana had cut off all the connections. I mean, he's it's over. He's almost with one with the Supreme Self, and yet he had that one trace of attachment with his cow, where Swami says when Swami visited him, he stretches his hand, saying that please feed me, and Swami mixes, takes the food, puts that morsel in his palm, and Swami had said this time because I remember very clearly. He says, the minute I put that morsel in his hand, at that moment, even that last binding link with that cow was snapped, and he is free. That individual self has become, the droplet has become the ocean forever. Probably right now the droplet is coming back and going in, coming back, going in, but now it is the ocean forever. I think seeing that.
See, okay, let me give you an idea about, we have already seen this Ashtasiddhis, and then look at how Bhagavan Ram responds. And this is a very important statement. I just captured a few clear about one, but you can all read how he has eloquently described the whole answer. He says, the ignorance which is called the superimposition due to avidya slowly shines out very clearly in the shape of siddhis in those people who believe the body to be the self. I'm sure this translation is, somebody who has done the translation is amazing, because the word he has mentioned, the ignorance which is called the superimposition, which is like a maya, due to avidya, slowly shines out and takes the shape of siddhi. So Siddhi, he is in a way saying that it is a superimposition due to Vidya is called Siddhi. Now, whole concept of Siddhi, Bhagwan Ram has shattered in a way. What we think of it like a supernatural powers of Anima, Garima, and all that. If I read this sentence and I'm contemplating on it, it just changes the whole perspective to look at it. So, what we are thinking as a power, Bhagwan Ram has described it as something lacking in each humans. If I say I need a power, that means I don't have something that I want. So, aspiring for Siddhi itself shows incompleteness in sadhaka, and which is a mark of duality, Dvaita. So, Bhagwan explains beautifully. He says that a person who is aspiring for mergence, oneness, Advaita, should not run after Siddhis. Because the core itself is that you are establishing yourself in duality by chasing Siddhis or by aspiring for Siddhis. So that is why the Siddhis can happen to you, but you don't work for Siddhi. Jagdish, your input before we continue.
Yes, thank you. So, in fact, this immediately reminds me of what Shankara talks about, the siddhis, especially in the Viveka Chudamani, etc. He says that the siddhis should be treated as kaka malavat, meaning it should be treated as the mala or the feces of a crow, it seems. Okay, so if the feces of a crow fall on somebody, will they entertain it? They will immediately, you know rub it away or push it away, right? They will not be interested in it. In fact, what Shankara says over there is that these siddhis in fact become an avarodha or a barrier in one's spiritual progress, and due to that it should vairagya. So when he talks about vairagya, he also extends this vairagya to the siddhis, and he says that vairagya should also be applied to the siddhis, and he says that there should be no attachment to the siddhis as well. But having said that, there are also instances in our shastra where these siddhis have been used by Mahapurushas like our own Hanuman, etc. In the Sundarakanda, you will see that he has used these Ashtasiddhis, the Anima Garimadi. But there, these siddhis become all the more important because they are being used for Ramakaryam. So there, they have a special significance, and that is the actual use of these. But when somebody utilizes it for personal gain, that is the in fact, what gurus also say is that these siddhis must be used for loka kalyanam, if at all somebody uses it. But if somebody uses it for personal gain, maybe let's say somebody has these siddhis, he does a prediction for somebody, and that comes out true, that again becomes an input for that person's ego, and then he's back into the cycle of samsara. So therefore the siddhis are a two-edged sword. you know. With that, let's move
Raj, you
ahead.
can jump in. I just wanted to, I feel there are two aspects to this Siddhis. One is how do you acquire it? The intent. Do you acquire it in a direct manner or it just comes to you? And second is the usage of Siddhis. When I got it, I don't know how I got it, but I got it. It's like people who chant God's name, they don't know the power of their Vakashuddhi. That Vakashuddhi. Like our elders also have this Vakashuddhi. So if they say something, it manifests. But they did not chant to gain that energy, the power, so that they could say the mantra Shakti. But they get it. But the intent, that's why when I look at this verse, I realize there are two things here he's talking about. One, that you should never pursue spirituality for siddhis. And siddhis will naturally come to you as you progress. So the more and more we go closer to the core, the attribute of core comes to you, and that attribute is one with the whole creation, and hence all these powers become natural to you. So God doesn't have to learn anima, garima to do that. It just comes naturally to him. Then comes when I have it, how do I use it? And Brother Jagdish very beautifully said it. How do we say use it? That is where we have to keep in mind that to realize that, hey, this power is not mine and it has to be used for the welfare. Raju, before you
Swami,
say, I'm reminded of, sorry, I'm reminded of
go on.
Swami Rama, Himalayan sage, the book which you must have all seen, him, the Himalayan Master. Yeah, Himalayan Master. And when it happened recently also, in the sense that Swami Rama lived in our era, if I may say, he had gone to US and he was promoting yoga, Vedanta and yoga, and the people had, the scientists had a meeting with him, it seems. So I understand that came out, and he said that he paralyzed his half body in front of the scientists and fixed it back. So the scientists were like all awestruck, like what happened? How did he do that? So, and Swami Rama, it seems he used to go often afterwards to America. After I think around 6, 7 years later, again he went to US, and the same group of scientists invited him back, and he said, Swami Rama, please come. We have something to show you. And they had created the biofeedback system. Today, very popular it is, and they attached those, all the wiring and everything, and they did this. They made one person as an instrument who paralyzes our body and fixed it back. So, and they said, see, Rami Rama, what you achieved, we also achieved in 7 years. So they were trying to tell, and I remember this because of the answer which Swami Rama gave. Swami Rama said, you wasted your 7 years to paralyze yourself and bring it back. Whereas I don't know how I got it naturally. So, people can spend 7 years just to paralyze themselves and fix it back. Whereas what Swami Rama got it, he did not even spend even a second for that. And he was just showing them the power of yoga. So that is the beauty. Raju, your turn.
Yes, brother. So I was only just adding that Swami beautifully gives a triangle. He says there is Shuddhi. So imagine the tree, a triangle. One end is the Shuddhi, second is Buddhi, third is Siddhi. He says these three have to go in tandem. So Bhava Shuddhi for Buddhi allows Jnana Siddhi. This is the formula that Swami gives. So, in all the instances that we spoke about, the common element is the Shuddhi. How and what is Shuddhi? It is, in one phrase, it is pure selflessness or that egolessness. The absence of individuality is pure Shuddhi. So, as Swami describes that as the intensity of Shuddhi goes up, the Buddhi refines itself. And what is Buddhi? Buddhi is nothing but it's like a mirror. It is reflecting the power of Atma. If you go back to that analogy, so human mind is of four components. We have the manas, which is the operational one, then chitta, which is the repository of all the memories, then ahankara, the individual identity, the individuality, and above them is buddhi. So antakarana, the four instruments. So buddhi is, Swami says, it is like a mirror. It reflects 90% of the light of atma. And as the shuddhi, so it's like the mirror. As the shuddhi, basically the mirror is getting cleaned. As the purity of the mirror goes up, it begins to reflect the light of atma. He also, in another discourse, he also gives that it can reflect up to 90% of the light of atma. So essentially, as the bhava shuddhi is happening, as your bhavas are getting purified, as the mirror is cleansing itself, the buddhi is getting refined, the buddhi is cleaning, and atma, that the supreme self, is shining. It's like the sun that is shining, now it is reflecting. Just that since now there is no muck that is sitting, no dirt that is sitting on this mirror, it actually can effortlessly reflect this light back onto the three other elements, that ahankara, chitta, and manas. So through manas, it begins to flow out. Swami describes it begins to flow out through senses. So that is why, for example, when we meet certain people, we cannot describe. Like I remember, for example, I had met one devotee, and it was just few minutes, literally not more than 2 minutes. She said Sairam, I said Sairam. She's a ex Anantapur alumnus, very senior. And I said, Hakka, how are you? She said, I'm fine, better. And then I touched her feet. And and within those 2 minutes after I left, I started feeling very happy. I do not know why. That feeling stayed for very long. And then when I went back after, at later point of time when we spoke, I realized that she's a great aspirant. And that's when I realized probably that it's a very recent experience. Her her purity has actually passed on through those 2 minute discussion to me, those whatever vibrations, whatever you call it. But that is now that bhava shuddhi in her, the buddhi is reflecting her bhava shuddhi, and that light is hitting me, and I am experiencing it as happiness. So another way, Swami in another discourse he beautifully describes. He says, you look at miracle as something essential. When I say miracle, I'm meaning siddhi. When we say siddhi, we are only looking at things that are extremely supernatural, creating something out of the blue, creating so waving Swami waving his hand and creating a ring, or transforming an element of wood or element of a leaf into golden. All of us have seen that golden coins, or creating diamonds, or vanishing things in midair. That is, yes, that is one. That is a very minute part. In discourse, he says, what is it that is making all of you to come when Swami walks? Why is it that you are actually getting attracted like the iron filings to a magnet? That is also one form of siddhi. Or if we just go around Puttaparthi, we see how much of it was once a barren land. Now it is full of lush green. How is it? How did this happen? That is also one form of expression of divinity. And I think the definition of siddhi in Swami's eyes, it actually takes a very different level altogether, where he finally, in another discourse, he finally says the real siddhi is the jnana siddhi, realization of the self, that you are no more different from the supreme one. You are actually the supreme one. That is the highest siddhi that one should aspire for. You're on
Let
mute.
me take you further. The beauty is the Hanumanji has not stopped here. Our Hanumanji has asked further question. And I think it's interesting to read that. He says, "Oh Janaki Rama, how could these siddhis be ascribed as sinful, which are acquired by the grace of God?" Because I think this is a normal thing which you will hear commonly by people and saying, "Oh, everything is God's." Then why do we, avoid things? People who want to do something negative, eat something different, they say that also is God's gift. So we want to enjoy that. So everything is God's gift. That philosophical statement comes in. And look at how Bhagwan Hanuman has asked this question to Sri Ram. And let me share with you that how Bhagwan responds. On account of their equal capability to serve as impediments to knowledge, the siddhis, even though they are acquired by the grace of God, should be rejected by those who desire moksha. This is a very important thing. Equal capability to serve as impediments. So not only siddhis are a reflection of your, activity, but the fact is it's an impediment to knowledge. And the coordination of siddhi and mukti is impossible for any human being in Kali. This is a very important statement which I feel. And as Raju, you are saying right now, even Ram says that do not take example of people like sage Vashisht, because they are the rarest being who have been able to control themselves and reach that stage wherein doesn't matter to them. But normally, siddhis are impediments more than anything else. So siddhi and mukti is impossible for any human being in Kali. The punyas or meritorious acts are also shaken off by the wise like pop. Siddhis are the effect of punyas done with selfish motive. I open the floor for you all to share your thoughts on this. I think this is a very packed, and as I told you, I've not taken all. I've just taken a snapshot of his answer, and I encourage everybody to read through it. It's fantastic to see how Bhagwan Ram has explained and expounded on the whole things. Any thoughts on it, Jagdish, Raju?
Yeah. So very much in line with what we were saying earlier, right? So in fact, the siddhis which are bestowed by God Himself are still part of Maya. That's what Shankara also says in the Viveka Chudamani, etc. He clearly divides our body into three different aspects, where the sthula, sukshma, and the karana shariras, and he clearly mentions that the karana sharira is the Maya. And these siddhis, in fact, the Mahamaya is who is actually attributed with these siddhis. Or if you see Mother Goddess anywhere, if you look at her upasana, she's she's prayed to as the one who has all these siddhis, and she's the bestower of all these siddhis. In fact, Animadhi, these shaktis, it seems, these siddhis, they keep doing parikrama of her feet. That's what the Lalita Sahasrama also very clearly mentions. Okay, so, and if you actually bring it to a operational or a how do you really do the spiritual sadhana, and when you get these siddhis, where do you get them exactly? That particular aspect has been described as Shankara as a karana sharira. Karana sharira is equal to Maya, is what Shankara says. Okay, and that karana sharira is the nilayam, or the resting place of these eight siddhis, is what he says. So therefore it is a straight deduction by logic, if we see from there, that if these eight siddhis are there, which means the karana sharira still has some kind of a abhimana or an astitva. It has some ego related to it, and therefore it becomes a clear deduction from there that if you have these siddhis, then the mukti aspect, forget about it. You really need to be vairagya to the power infinity to really understand and to really achieve mukti in spite of having these.
This is from Vivek Chudamani.
A little bit, yes.
Wow. Sorry, please carry on. I think it was fantastic. I had not heard it before, so it is very nice. And Karana Sharira, when you talk about it, it really adds to the different, different perspective comes into picture now. So because we have a different outlook for Karana Sharira, and now you have given this that siddhis originate there. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
so that's what Shankara is saying. And Shankara, in fact, also goes on to mention that these siddhis, in fact, are achieved when you don't have pure sattva guna is mixed along with a little bit of rajoguna and a little bit of tamoguna. That is when the siddhis are there. So which means that you have not completely lost the rajo and the tamoguna, and still you have the siddhis. Okay, so so therefore it is imperative from there on that you lose these gunas also for your mukti, right? So that's the deduction, right?
Raju, we are talking about that, Siddhi Vinayak, as we call,
Yes.
Vinayak, the Lord Ganesha is also referred to as Siddhi Vinayak. And I think
Yes.
Swami has mentioned about it. Would you want to share that?
Swami says in the discourse that Vinayaka has uh, two wives, that is Siddhi and Buddhi, and Vinayaka the master of the. I think there's echo. Vinayaka is the master of the senses. Nayaka, which is which is the master of all senses. And Swami described that he has two attendants, that is Buddhi and Siddhi. And uh, so we have also, it's also called Riddhi. And Swami goes on to add that when you in another discourse he says, so for example, when your Siddhi is not just the supernatural effect that we are thinking about, but a simple thing like you want to get. In fact, he gives that example of students doing extra namaskars during exams in college, in front of college Ganesha. He says that is also, you are basically doing that falasiddhi. You want your exams to give you better results. That expectation, that you want that result to materialize. So that is also in some sense an effort for siddhi. So and yeah, in that same context he adds on saying that Vinayaka, when can you be Vinayaka? One, when you have mastered the senses, it is then called as Vinayaka. And he goes on to explain why, how can you master senses. It is the one darshana, that is the supreme. You look at, you have the darshan of truth, or that jnana darshan, or whatever you call it. And second, you realize that uh, that you are the divine. So you have, so Brahma with Brahmaiva bhavati, the one who knows Brahman becomes Brahman. So you know that you have seen that supreme one, and you have become the supreme one. So that is the point where the senses kind of fall away. And in that same line, he also gives a beautiful example of how uh, he talks about Ravana. Ravana is master. So we are looking at at two people. That it's a very, Swami does not explain it, but when you contemplate on it, when you realize that why is Swami getting that particular anecdote, that particular discourse, that particular story here, and I think we need to meditate. We need to just mull over it, and it strikes you that, oh my God, there's actually a different layer. Swami is giving that response. He talks about the interaction between Hanuman and Ravana, and for some time it did not strike me as to why Swami is, he goes on to use that Janapada, the folklore song, Buddhi Cheppada Ravana, Lokamatanu Techi Neevu. So it's a very nice folk song which Swami had written, where Hanuman threatens Ravana that I will teach you a lesson, O Ravana. You have actually abducted the mother of the universe. You will pay for it, O Ravana. That's the song. It's like a folk song, but behind these screens, smoke screens, the Lord is driving a very strong message. And he is talking about the interaction between two people, Ravana and Hanuman, and both of them are considered to be masters of siddhis. Just that one, and we have a prime example of what Lord Ramachandra spoke about. He said these are the equal impediments to knowledge. And that's exactly what happened. You have two prime examples where this is Hanuman who has used that siddhi to become small, to grow big, to become light, to become weightless. He has used all those siddhis to serve the mission of Lord, to a selfless end. All those were actually steps for him to reach his goal of Ramachandra. On the other side of that same scene was Ravana, who has used the same siddhis, who has used the same powers to enhance his own ego, to overpower weak, and to rule, to kind of grab everything. And he, through these same powers, he has actually stoked the six vices of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, and Mada, Matsarya. And here we have a prime example as to how, without proper buddhi, the results of siddhi actually diverge into two different ways. One, you have the and then he goes on to talk about, we have another example of uh, of uh, Arjuna choosing Sri Krishna and Duryodhana choosing the Sena, his Narayani Sena. That time it not strike me as to why Swami is actually leading from Ramayana and is coming to Mahabharata, but he's driving a very powerful lesson that the choice, it's actually the buddhi, and he goes on to say buddhi of Arjuna chose Krishna, and while the buddhi of our man Duryodhana chose Narayani Sena, or rather he chose the world and he chose God, and the rest is history. All of us know. And here we have Hanuman who chose to serve Rama, and that's how his siddhis have actually amplified his power and amplified, and he has grown to become he has kind of become a god himself. While the same Ravana who has done intense tapas, the same person who actually strung veena on his intestines, he chose to serve his own ends using the siddhis, and the siddhis have actually led to his downfall. Now, the choice, that is where the buddhi comes in, that the discrimination. What do you choose? Like the Vinayaka, what do you choose? Do you choose God? Do you choose the world? And depending on that, the buddhi is the same buddhi. Sorry, the same siddhi will give you a very different effect.
There's a small little question that's come from Brother Srinivas. He says, can brothers clarify if sadhaka could earn siddhis due to God's grace but remain unaware of it? Use or misuse is possible only if the person is aware of siddhis acquired for it God. Well, it is possible. Why not? I know it's all, I think, defining ourselves. We are defining it as siddhis, but actually these are only part of expression of God's will. You want to say something about it, any of you?
I just want to add this. Jagdish, brother,
Go ahead,
go
go
on.
ahead, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, no, I was only just adding this one line, that in my little submission is, I don't think these are actually gifts of God. No, yes, we say it is gifts of. It's actually a phrase that we are using to convey an idea. It is actually your own your own grace upon yourself, as the buddhi, as the mirror is cleaning itself, the supreme self is actually shining through. It is your the, Swami says in a discourse, he says that when Hanuman says, after he returns from Lanka for Sundara Kanda, he says, Lord, it is your grace. Because this struck me so much, because it has become like my own habit. I'm sure probably this will be similar habits of many. When you say when you get a prize, you say it's all Swami's grace. No, I had involuntarily used the same phrase where some one VIP praised in Swami's presence. He told that my speech was very good. I just blurted out saying it is Swami's grace. Swami looked at me, Amira, hey, and he said, and I looked up and said, Amy, what do you mean by grace? I was dumbfounded. I said, Swami, only because of you I could speak. Then, because that struck me, so Swami is talking in a similar instance where Rama tells Hanuman that 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 will to do that selfless cause, the selfless intent to work for realizing your own self, that actually cleared the way, that actually allowed your supreme self to flow through all the senses, that we call it grace. So I think these siddhis are nothing but, this is only just the reflection of our true nature. Now the point what we are trying to make is, where is your focus? Is your focus on that supreme self, or is it on the luster of the supreme self? It is actually shining through the
Or the gifts
mirror.
of Supreme Self. Or
Yes.
the gifts of Supreme Self. I like your the presentation which you said right now is that, as Bhagwan says, I'm a drishta. So neither he blesses nor he curses. It is nothing like for him. But it is good to give credit to God so that our ego remains in check. So God is just that poor fellow is sitting there and saying, okay, you want some surrender learning, do it with me. You want to give something, at least get off your ego. So he is that that imagery which helps us to realize ourselves without getting distracted. So from that superlative perspective, I would suggest that yes, it is nothing to do with God per se, but it is like any of karmic effects. You do something, you get results. So siddhis are also part of the results. Now, as Bhagwan Ram has mentioned, that when the intent of that action is selfish, it is giving you a siddhi from a different perspective. But if the intent of your thing was, as you said, it was only absolute God, then these powers which they come to us, we don't even consider them, rather we bother about them. You understand? Because we are getting attuned with it. So I like that approach that yes, let us not get into the trap of evaluating whether these siddhis are a gift of God or not God. Everything is God's. But the difference is they will come to us either positively or negatively, depending on our intent of our actions, how we are doing it. Do you agree, brothers?
Totally. I had 2 points to make when brother had begun, right? So the first one being that the conference of the siddhis is as natural as the ripening of a fruit. So let's say when there is a fruit on the tree, right? So given all the nice conditions, which means if the sadhana is correct, given the conditions, it will ripen. That's its natural stage, natural progression. Okay, but having said that, does the fruit know that it is ripe or it is raw? It's a question that's left to the fruit, right? So similarly, like what brother has just mentioned, right, it is possible that one knows about the siddhis that he has achieved, or one may not know about the siddhis that he has achieved. But yeah, so in fact it is, anyway it is immaterial. So do you really know that, do you really want to know that these siddhis are bestowed on you or not, right? So that's the point number one that I wanted to make. The other point that came to my mind is a slight tangent, but not so much a tangent. But if you look at the Sundarakanda, right, where which is basically the karma bhumi of Hanuman, isn't it? So in fact, we know of all of Hanuman's greatest characteristics, or what we know him for is the perfection in which he has completed the Lord's work. You would notice that in throughout his journey, right, in spite of all his siddhis that he uses to achieve the Lord's work, when he's still stuck, by the way. Hmm? So for example, when there is Surasa, Surasa comes there, okay, or Mainaka comes there, he's stuck there. Okay, so in fact what he does always is he chants the story of Rama. You will see that these shlokas which start with Ramo Dasharathir Nama Pravishto Dandakavanam, etc., etc., which will keep repeating. Whenever Hanuman is stuck, he chants the story of Rama, and the path is clear. So it is for us to think here that are the siddhis greater, or is Rama's story greater? Because that is the one which is delivering Hanuman out of all the problems that he's facing in spite of his siddhis. So therefore, we have to logically think about which is more important, isn't it? So these are the 2 points, brothers.
Okay, continuing further, now the next step which Lord Hanuman takes us is, he says, Lord, since your whole conclusion has reached that, our focus has to be on God, and he asks him, prays for, what are the vidyas prescribed that I can follow to get this ultimate mukti, or so-called mukti, or oneness? And Bhagavan Ram takes him through a very elaborate, steps, and he quotes them through Upanishads. And he says Upanishads have given us some 16 vidyas, as they call it. And I'm using the word vidya purposely. I'm not using the word knowledge, because knowledge has a different connotation than vidya. And I'm sure my brothers can highlight it better. So I'm purposely using the word vidya, not to dilute the magnitude and the magnanimity of the word vidya, than to say it's a knowledge base, you know. So, brothers, you are free to add up afterwards. Let me show this Vidyas which Bhagwan Ram has mentioned. It starts with Satya Vidya, Dhara Vidya, Vaishwanara Vidya, Panchagni, Shodashakala, Udhita, Sandilya, Purusha, Priyanka, Akshara, Samavarga, Madhu, Prana, Upakosla, Sadavidya, and Bhumavidya, the final one. So this is the one, if I look at it, all of that, and it's very beautifully mentioned by Bhagwan Ram as to what is this Vidya, who is prescribed for it, and what is the outcome of it, and why is the outcome. And any Vidya which leads from the perspective of a desire for any output, be the output could be, you know, my self cleaning or my achievement or anything, that maximum leads to Krama Mukti. It doesn't give them Vaidehi, or it doesn't give them Kaivalyam, as they say. Kaivalyam is the oneness, unification. So that is the beauty of it. He goes on explaining this 16. So let me open it. Jagdish, you can start off, because these 16 are amazing, but they are quite a lot. So share some thoughts on this, Jagdish.
Yes, brother. So, to go with the textbook meaning of what we are looking at here is, so the word Vidya actually has been described even in our Vidya Vahini, etc. He has described Vidya as Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye. So that's a Upanishad Vakyam as well, where it says that that is Vidya which liberates. So far we have seen the attributes of Vidya as to, attributes of Mukti basically. That, how Mukti is, how it is beyond the senses, how it is beyond the Sattva Rajas Tamo Guna Ityadi. Hmm? But it also, yeah, that's Mukti, yes. But how do I reach that Mukti? What is the way in which I will reach that Mukti? That exactly is the Vidya. So in fact, the Upanishads, in fact, if you look at specifically the Chandogya Upanishad, it clearly talks about all these 16 Vidyas and beyond. Okay, so to give you an example of one very well practiced Vidya which is beyond this but still gives Mukti is the Shri Vidya. Okay, it is also a Vidya wherein a mantra is given and a particular, you follow a particular set of rituals with a particular bhava, which then allows your mind to slowly mature and go to the level of mukti. Okay, and again this table here has to be looked at with two things in mind. You will see that there are two words which are used very frequently, which is kramamukti and sadyamukti. So kramamukti here means that it is gradual mukti, meaning that one is liberated in stages. So like the stages we saw earlier, right? He becomes a jivan mukta, etc., 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 and finally becomes a videha mukta, etc. And there are also some vidyas here which give you sadhya mukti. Sadhyaha means right now, so immediate. Okay, so that is the sadhya mukti aspect which also some vidyas give. Okay, but having looked at this, then obviously everybody will want sadhya mukti, everybody will want to go for those vidyas which give you emancipation immediately, right? But there is a small print, or there is terms and conditions, let us say, that Rama specifies here, because we have, not everybody is suited to all kinds of vidyas. So certain vidyas are prescribed for certain people, and this is also a guru shishya kind of a relation, where the guru has to take you through some of these things. Okay, so very briefly, we will see one or two of these vidyas. Okay, so if you look at Satya Vidya in the beginning, so Satya Vidya is actually talked about in good detail in your Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka, etc. Also, uh, in Satya Vidya, what they would normally do is that they would directly attack um, the the self. So attack in the sense directly go to realize the self, right? So one of the ways in which they say is there is a in fact there is an ekashloki which Shankaracharya has given us, which is a prime example, which is a very good example of this Satya Vidya, where there is a dialogue between the student and the teacher. The teacher asks the pupil as to what is light for you. Hmm? So in fact he starts with light. Okay, he says what is light for you, and the pupil answers, during the day sun is the light, and during the night I, pradeepadikam, meaning lamp etc are my light, moon lamp etc etc. So pradeepadikam, he says. So no need to describe what all they are, don't need to list them down. Pradeepadikam. So during night this is it. Then the guru asks him, okay, but during your uh, during the process of you seeing, okay, what is that which is enabling you to see? The sun is there, the light etc are there, but blind people are not able to see. So therefore what is more subtle in that aspect of seeing or recognizing things is the eye. So therefore he says chakshuhu. Chakshuhu is the is so in fact look at the way in which in step by step they are going to that final aspect of self. Okay, so chakshuhu, he says, when you close your eyes you still are able to recognize or know these things, right? Tasya nimilanadi samaye, he asks guru. Then he says that is the buddhi. The shishya says the buddhi is the one which allows me to see. Okay, for example, when you close your eyes and still imagine something, let's say I say lamp, when you close your eyes you can imagine a lamp, you still see, right? So what is that which is enabling you to see? That is the buddhi. Okay, then dhiyo darshane is the next question that the guru asks. Okay, the the buddhi is allowing you to see, but what is that which is allowing the buddhi to see? Then the shishya, the pupil says, it is me. At that place it is me, I am the one who is enabling the buddhi to see. And then the guru responds and says, yes, therefore you are the ultimate. And he stops there. And the pupil then he agrees and he says, yes guru, I am the ultimate. And that is the example of the Satya Vidya. You I mean observe here how step by step they have gone, and they have removed all the chaff or the unnecessary part, and they have identified the real Brahma padartham which is there within, right? So that's the Satya Vidya. You go to the next one, which is Dahara Vidya. Dahara Vidya is again
Does it not sound like a Neti Marg? The process of Satyavidya is Neti Marg.
also. So in fact, you will see that Neti is a technique which is used in many of these Vidyas. So not just the Satya Vidya, but the trait, the attribute of Satya Vidya here is that it's a direct attack to, it goes directly. It doesn't prescribe many spiritual, practices that you do, meditation, etc., etc. Right? It's a direct thing. Okay, that's the Satya Vidya.
Okay.
Yeah, then you come to the Dahara Vidya. Dahara Vidya is again described in many of our Upanishads, including our Mahanarayanam, where if you, it's a very popular mantram, the Sahasrasirshan Devam Vishwaksham Vishwashambhuvam. There, in fact, this mantra talks about, I mean, many people say Narayana, but you have to understand what kind of Narayana it talks about. It says the Narayana is here. That Narayana is here in the Hridguha as a lamp which is looking down, it seems. So that kind of a description it gives. So, and it also goes on to say that here, so the type of meditation that one should do in the Dahara Vidya is basically to see the sun here, and after the sun is seen, inside that the form can be visualized. That's the kind of and there are also stages, right? So once you see that particular deity, gradually you will see and you will realize that it is the Kanti Tattva which is there, which is light, pure light which is there, and finally you reach the self that we reached in Satya Vidya, right? So this is the Dahar Vidya, and so on for the other ones. So we will not go into the details of everything.
I just wanted to ask you if anybody knows, the Panchagni Vidya. And I had heard about the Panchagni from a different perspective, that the fire inside. But here he mentions heaven, rain, earth, man, and woman in due order. This confused me actually. I didn't realize that, he considers five fires as heaven, rain, earth, man, and woman. I have no idea. Anybody has any clue on that? Because five fires, I know different fires.
No, in fact, this reminds me of what Vishwamitra does, right? Vishwamitra, when he does his penance, it seems he does a Panchagni penance, wherein one Agni is the Surya, and he puts four Agnis on four sides. It's again a very symbolic kind of a description that is given there, but that's the Panchagni Vidya, which is being, what Ramayana Bhashyakara says, that they say that Vishwamitra followed this Panchagni Vidya, and some other people also say that it is the five agnis of the Upasanagni, the Ahavaniyagni, the Dakshinagni, this kind of description is also there for the Panchagni Vidya. So I have to study a little more, frankly, to exactly say what this is.
No problem. And as you mentioned, the Kramamukti and Sadyamukti, I just want to highlight and beautifully explain, you know, and people may even think about it like how each one can give you Kramamukti as well as Sadyamukti. The beauty of explanation was that Bhagwan Ram says that all of this have certain element of attributes through which you are pursuing it. So even if you take Udgita Vidya or Panchagni Vidya, you are doing it in there is some kind of an undercurrent of duality left in that. So he says ultimately one has to be willing to drop even that attribute and pursue. Then only you will get Sadhya Mukti. So that is why he has mentioned that initially it will give you Krama Mukti, but to move forward you have to even drop those attributes, and that is the, I would say, a very subtle key which differentiates from complete Sadhya Mukti or Kaivalyam from Karma Mukti. Because so everybody can, like, there is Krama Mukti sounds easy, but even that is not easy. But that is doable and that is achievable in a way. But to reach beyond that, to have that Kaivalyam part or a Sadhya Mukti, one needs to drop it. And that is why you find that most of these have Krama Mukti as that. But if you look at and let me take you this. So if you look at the Bhuma Vidya, anybody wants to say anything about that? Because that is the finale which he says is the queen of Vidyas and concerns only with direct cognition. And that I find it very interesting, because I was recently with a discussion and I heard very beautiful statement. With comparison was faith versus experience. And he says, even for a realized soul, it becomes redundant. Once you have experience, then there is no need for faith. So when I say I have faith in you, there is a duality and experience has not come yet. That's why you have to have faith. But once you have experience, the question of faith becomes immaterial. So a person of knowledge, a person of Vidya, a person of awareness, he does not talk about faith. So faith is also a stepping stone. And that was something like a mind-boggling experience for me, because we always think about faith to be very good and we have to improve our faith, blah, blah, we talk about it. But here comes Bhuma Vidya, which talks about experience, direct cognition. There is no faith in that. So there is no need to have a faith in saying that I'm a human being because I experience it. I don't need to have faith to believe that I am a human being, So the beauty of cognition, that experience, is the finale. So the person of aham, that I am, is experience. It has got nothing to do with faith. So faith also undercurrent represents duality. It was a little difficult initially for me to digest, but it was fantastic thought. I open it to you. Your thoughts, Raju and Jagdish.
Yes, brother, and it's a very powerful thought actually. What you said, that faith and experience. Brother Jagdish, you want to continue? I will.
Yeah, sure. So again, examples, is what comes to my mind when we talk about Bhuma Vidya, right? Two examples that come to mind immediately with the Bhuma Vidya. The main attribute here being that it doesn't require a teacher. You would see in the case of Jadabharata in our in Bhagavatam, basically that he learns from various things. So in fact, he looks at a deer and understands something. Okay, so and another example that you see of Bhuma Vidya is Ramana Maharshi himself, a very contemporary example. You do not know of any guru that Ramana Maharshi had. Okay, so he automatically had that in him, and he went and did his penance, and directly the Paramatma was his guru. That's how we have to say this, right? uh, but what are those underlying um, qualities that one should achieve through these vidyas? It may be any kind of vidya here. So what are the qualities that one needs to gain for this kramamukti or the Sadyamukti to happen? Is what Gita Charya also very clearly mentions. He says, Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham stairyam atma vinigraha indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankarameva janma mrityu jaravyadhi dukkhadoshanu darshanam ashaktiranabhishvangaha putradara grihadishu nityancha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu मैचानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभच अभिचारिणी विविक्तदेश सेवित्वम अरतिर्जन संसदि आध्यात्मज्ञान नित्यत्वम तत्वज्ञानार्थ darshanam. So in fact, these are the 20 qualities that that Sri Krishna mentions here clearly to Arjuna, and says that these are the qualities that you get by any of these vidyas, which then pave for you the path for the siddhis as well as the kramamukti. Okay, so that's the um, underlying thing that I wanted to just mention, right? Brother, go ahead.
Beautiful. I just wanted to, as we are coming to the last portions of the Vidyas, and transitioning to the uh, current times. So, uh, if you were to go and ask, uh, if you were to go and ask Lord Rama, Hanuman went and asked Lord Rama, and Hanuman was given all these answers. Now you go to imagine you are still being in interview room, and you are sitting near the throne, and you are asking Swami, how do I realize myself? What would be his reply? I'm sure many of us have had this experience. If not directly, at least we have had someone else asking these questions in our presence. I remember once one of my junior, yeah, Swami, what is this supreme uh, reality? What is Sachidananda? How do I experience myself? How do I experience that? Swami's answer was very simple. He said, love. That's like he'll do that action, that love. Ante, prem okkate chalu. So he has toned down from that 16 vidyas. He has now toned down to our current times, and he has simplified it so much. And there is a poem in which he says, uh, "Kala sandigdha vigraha suktulayunta bhashyartha gopyamul telpu koraku." In the flow of time, when the meaning and the essence of the words have lost, they have become like the shila falaka, like the stones. I have come to uh, imbibe life into them. I have come to give new light into them. And he gave such beautiful insights. In fact, as you were explaining, that was running in my head. I was wishing that, what would now, imagine me sitting and someone tells to learn Bhuma Vidya. I would have I would have just caught his spirit. Something I do not know. I don't know, first of all, what is Vidya, and You're telling me learn Bhuma Vidya. What do I know? It is because Hanuman, Ramachandra had given that, and we see a similar kind of the response rate, the intensity of the responses were like that. The questions were like that, and the responses were like that. In it is of that yuga, that age, that time. Kala, Desha Kala Paristiti. With our Desha Kala Paristiti, and as brother was highlighting that slide, but before we go there, it just struck me this afternoon. I was reading what Swami had asked Kasturi Garu to write introduction when Vidya Vahini was being released. It struck me so much. He says the first line of the preface. He says Swami tells Kasturi, and he writes. He says, "What is Vidya?" He says, "Ya is that which with is uh, illuminate." So your Dhishakti, that which illuminates is Vidya, with and Ya, that which illuminates. And then he goes on to say, then Kasturiga writes, he says, Swami explains that in Vidyagiri, that is in Prashant Nilayam, we do not have any other places, but we have Vidyagiri, the Giri of Vidya. and and he says in all the vidyas, Adhyatma Vidyanam, I am the Adhyatma Vidya. And here we have the Vidyagiri in Prashantile. And in Vidyagiri, look at all the statues that are there, the prominent statues. We find, how do we attain this? When this connection hit my mind, I was actually my eyes were moist. I'll tell you why. uh, when we attain How do we attain this Vidya? We have the little small Balakrishna through lot of leelas and a lot of bonhemi, a lot of childish pranks. And just opposite to that, you have Nataraja, you have Saraswati, and you have Vinayaka. Nataraja, the dance of life and death, the dance of creation, destruction. And Saraswati, pure in white, clad in white, this pure knowledge, that purity of knowledge. And you have Vinayaka, who is the epitome of sense control. Through sense control, through pursuit of knowledge, through focusing on the nature, that's all, and that's basically creation and destruction of the universe, and through intense love. And apart from all this, there is one more beautiful statue that Swami has actually displayed in Vidya Vainik, in the Vidya Giri. It is the one of Dakshinamurti through intense self-reflection. These five put together, you have they give you Vidya. And and he says, he he writes, he says, in this Vidyagiri, it is epitomized by 65 feet of Hanuman. And that is when it struck me, my God, it is Ramachandra is actually using that same Hanuman, and Hanuman is asking. Swami says the epitome of this Vidya, the one who has manifested, who has exemplified the qualities of Vidya, is devotion and service, love for God and selfless service to humanity. These two are the ways in which Vidya flows out to you. That is exemplified by Hanuman. Through that simple architectural structure, Swami is teaching us such a profound lesson as to what actually is Vidya and of the current times, and what Vidya Giri is all about. And that is the heart. And Swami says, Mandir is the heart of name, and the extension of that heart is Vidyagiri. And that is where the essence of Vidya as taught by the Lord. And I'm sure there's a definition that we can actually discuss about. But if you want to add any points, please.
Raja, I've never thought Vidya Giri. We have used this word so often, but never realized that Vidya Giri is the connotation is so profound. It's fantastic. Love it. Love it. Really love it. Okay, let me flash you that slide, and which Bhagwan has said. So it will be nice for you to talk about that also. Bhagwan says this. Read it out slowly for everybody in Telugu.
Swami, beautiful definition of Vidya. What should every student learn? At a very peripheral level, this appears to be a very operational, educational driven definition. But however, when we contemplate, it is the Lord's word. It is actually relevant to each one. He gives 6 qualities of every student. He says Satravartana, సద్బుద్ధి, సత్యనిరతి, భక్తి, క్రమశిక్షణ, కర్తవ్య పాలనంబు నేర్పునది విద్య విద్యార్థి నేర్వవలయు సత్యమును తెలుపు మాట శ్రీ సాయి మాట. సత్ప్రవర్తన, ఇట్ ఈస్ ఐడియల్ గుడ్ కండక్ట్. సద్బుద్ధి, గుడ్ బుద్ధి, గుడ్ బిహేవియర్. దెన్ గుడ్ ఇంటెలెక్ట్, సద్బుద్ధి. సత్యనిరతి, స్టెడ్ఫాస్ట్నెస్ టు ట్రూత్. భక్తి, డివోషన్. Kramashikshana, discipline, and kartavya palana, the sense of duty. Now, if you have these 6 qualities, whichever field may it be the field of science, may it be the field of economics, may it be the field of knowledge, may it be the field of even atmic self-realization, the result is bound to manifest. He says these are the things that every student, when he follows, he achieves, or rather he finds fulfillment in the goal that he is actually seeking. Satravartana, sadbuddhi, satyanarthi, bhakti, kramashikshana, kartavya palanambu. This is applicable to a first grader, to a PhD scholar, or to a sage and saint that pass by.
What fascinates me is how easy and simplified Bhagwan makes the whole thing. Going through the 16 versions and then looking at the 6 words, it sounds easy, but it is equally challenging, but it's so beautiful that it becomes a little comprehensible for all of us. And how he hits the root of it. So if you want to do any of the 16, we need this 6. So for Vidya, Vidyarthi has to have these 6. And when these 6 are blossomed, obviously the Vidya happens and everything else naturally becomes. I find it, nobody can even, summarize it so crisp and easy as he has done it. Good behavior, good steadfastness to truth. We can even talk about it, but I think contemplation is very important in this. Jagdish, you want to add something here?
Again, brother, just what Raju brother was mentioning some time ago. If Swami were to say Bhuma Vidya, would we be able to, even grasp what is there, right? So therefore, also, these are in a way the same that the Gita Charya also mentioned when he talked about the 20 different, gunas, right? 20 different, sattva attributes. But Swami, the master that he is, he'll always, boil it down to exactly what we need and what we understand it. you know. So therefore, you
And
can
I would
only
like you
go
to
down.
highlight, I would like you all to share something. The closure line of Bhagwan has always attracted my attention. It's like a declaration that I am God. He doesn't say it in that words, but when he says Satyamunu Telupu Mata Sri Sai Mata. See, this sentence itself, it is so powerful. Only God can utter these statements in this manner. Both of you are from Telugu background, so can you just break it down for the audience so that people can understand the gravity of this statement?
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
So I just recollect one interaction. Telugu Radio Sai wanted to brothers in Telugu Radio Sai wanted to do a small, like a 10-minute discussion on Swami's poems. So they selected that let's do this phrase, and it was supposed to be 10 to 15-minute filler discussion. And then they realized that when actually got into the discussion, they realized 15 minutes is too less. They said let's make it actually one full-fledged program. They planned it like 1 hour, and as Shivashankar Sai sir and as others were dropping in the definitions, they realized that even 1 hour is actually too less. Let's do a full series, and it ended up actually now you would see that line being discussed for for almost many days together. So it is so deep that one line, Swami kind of crystallizes entire essence of his teachings in that one line. He says, in one of the discourse, he says, Sai is mata is the bata. In Telugu, bata is path. He says the Sai is mata is like the path, not just to heaven, but actually to your own self, to the ultimate goal of humanity. And he Satyamunu Telupu Mata Sri Sai Mata. Look at the selection of the words. He talks about, he does not say it is Nijamu, he does not say anything, but he says it is Satya. Satyamunu Telupu. And Telupu is actually the one that lets you. So he does not say it is Nerpu. No, Nerpu is the one that actually teaches you. But even here, I
But
remember.
you have to
Even
give
here,
you have
I
to give
remember.
word you have to give word meaning also, because you are
Yes.
using the words we may not,
Yes.
you know.
So I remember one Swami. I'm sure that discourse clip has also, not the discourse, that interaction clip has gone quite viral. He says, "This hand has the power to turn." He tells one of the students in the corridor, "This hand has the power to turn earth into sky, sky into earth, but yet that is not my way." There he gives, and in Kodai, one of the boys had asked Swami, why is it that you say that uh, I have an naudeshanlo, in my opinion. When the discussion that's happening, he would pitch in saying that in my opinion. So it is, he's leaving the choice of acting upon his advice to you. Swami had Bhagya sir had asked Swami, sir had told us in the class, he said, Swami, what is one of the greatest sins that man can ever commit? Swami told him that one of the greatest sins that man can ever commit is to go against the direct instruction of God that is given to him. And then he adds on, says that is why Swami does not directly instruct unless and until uh, if the instruction has come to you, it means that he is sure that you will be able to execute it. Only then the direct instruction will come. Otherwise, it will be always an opinion, it will be always an advice. That is where he says, Telupu, it is only it is informing you. It is giving you an advice. Now it is up to you to act on it. He is leaving that choice to you. It is, and Satyamunu Telupu Mata Sri Sai Mata. It is not Padyam, it is not Mata is just one single word. You take any word and then you contemplate on it. And then you will realize Satyamunu Telupu. So it will teach you. It will let you realize that, oh my God, this is what is actually truth. Sri Sai Mata. And it is not even uh, simple Sai, Shri, which is the auspiciousness, which is the epitome of everything that is called beauty or goodness or auspicious. And that Sai's word is the one that leads you to truth. The Jagdish, you want to add?
Very, very nice, brother. So, in fact, the choice of this particular, padyam also, we have to, underline here that Nerpunade Vidya Vidyarthi Nervavalayunu. So, in
Yeah,
fact,
beautiful.
we are talking about Vidya, right? So, and Swami very, very clearly is saying that all the Vidyas that you have seen, the 16, will finally bestow. It is, I mean, will bestow is another thing. If the sadhaka does the right sadhana, then it will certainly bestow, just like the ripening of a fruit. And therefore, what is the crux of all the vidyas is basically to teach you sadpravartana, sadbuddhi, satyanirati, bhakti, kramashikshana, kartavya palanambu. So that's the so therefore the choice of this particular padyam here is just what is required here, just what the doctor ordered, let us say, you know.
Yes.
You know what I would like to highlight and continue with all of both of your thoughts is the grace and the love and mercy of our master. See, in our ignorance, we may not even know that we are committing a sin. See, when our parents say something, we brush them off many times and we don't do. what they say because it's taken in a lighter vein. But he says that even that becomes a karmic bondage. So imagine the karmic bondage of God when He Himself gives you the time and the attention and we disregard it for whatever reason. It could be innocent reason, and taking a liberty with Lord or, taking for granted. But even in that, He does not want that we should suffer, even ignorantly. And hence the choice of words from Bhagavan. And we have been discussing how His word is not different from Him. So whatever He utters is perfect and absolutely appropriate. So when He says Telupu and not instructs you or not gives you a direct guidance, direct command, it is not only I think it's a massive grace and mercy of our Lord. We talk about what Lord is. I would say these small things highlight His magnanimity, that He's so careful, that He should not, that the act should not turn negative on us. I remember one boy got bitten by a snake and Bhagwan just said, "Oh, there's nothing." And he kept saying nothing. The whole doctor world went crazy telling Swami, it is the most poisonous snake. Swami said, "Buddhara, nothing. It is nothing." And it turned nothing, The fact is, and ultimately say, I'll never use the word that you're trying to tell me. Because the moment he says the word, it will become poison. So if he says cancer is your stomach ache, it becomes a stomach ache, gas problem. He converts the whole damn cancer to a gas. Because the word he uttered makes it so. He cannot say the word because if he utters the word, Satyamata, Sri Sai Mata. So imagine the power and the grandeur of this word and Bhagwan. I find it so humbling and, it's such a blessing to be in such grace. What do you think? It's overwhelming for me to even think of that how much God is perfect and not even in his wildest imagination he could do anything or anything can be done which can be negative. Forget hurting devotees. It can be otherwise for his creation. So perfect. No?
And what strikes me is this, that if you look at the Ramagita that is given, it is given to Hanuman in Prashanti Vahini, and also to Hislop. Swami says, never in the history of humanity has such an avatar come where he is actually available to masses, where he is available to entire humanity. Ramachandra was confined to few. Yes, through his will, it is one Hanuman that knew how what Rama is, one Lakshmana, one Bharata, one Shatrughna, probably near and dear, and many of the sages. But beyond that, it's a question mark. Some countries knew that Krishna was a was a divine personification, but beyond that, it's a question mark. But now, uh, the first poem that Swami writes to his brother he uses the word Akhila Manavulaku. It is not one, it is to entire humanity. Akhila Manavulaku Ananda Managurchi. And in all the Gayatri mantras of all the gods, we see that particular god being, so Tanno Nandi Prachodaya, Tanno Durgi Prachodaya, Rudra Prachodaya, Aditya Prachodaya. But only in Sai Gayatri you hear, and it is conceived involuntary. It is actually it came out from our man. Uh, Sorry, I'm not getting his name.
Gandikoti garu.
Gandikoti Subramanya Shastri garu.
Gandikoti Subramanya Shastri. Yeah.
So it emerged from him on 24th December as Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. It is for all again. It is not for one. It is not restricted to one devotee, not restricted to one community, not to one class, not to one religion, not to one country, not to one race. but to the entire humanity, Akhila Manavulaku, and Tanna Sarva, and what is written on even Swami's Sannidhi is, it is love all, serve all. Again, it is all. So that 16 vidyas which was given in the confinements of a highly guarded and highly secured, probably very deep internal royal palace of Ayodhya, which was restricted only to the 2 years of Hanuman, are now available to the entire humanity through these poems of Swami, to the teachings of Swami. All that we need to do is we just need to be ready and just, as Swami says, come to the ocean and carry as much water as you want. The water is limited only by the cup, by the size of the cupping of your hand. But water is unlimited. The grace of the Lord is right now. It's available to anyone that comes to shore, and all that you do is just cup your hands and take as much as you can. And that's all I think that we should do.
Let me take you to the closure and imagine Hanuman, teaches us even how to ask questions and how to close the question, how to end the chapters. When we study, he prays to Lord. He says, God, please summarize for me the whole process. I was actually intrigued and very curious to see what a question it is. I never heard. We also do this mistake of not asking this. In fact, and he says to Ram, please summarize to me all that what you have told me so that I don't miss out and I can recapitulate that whatever you have taught me, I remember it. So this is a final recap before the examination. So he asks him for summary, and Lord gives him a summary with most benevolently and see. So let's go through it. It's a very beautiful 17 chapter journey. He says of Vedanta, first he gives Vedanta and he divides into the need for 10 Vedas, 32 and 108. Then he talks about the authoritativeness of 108. And then he talks about the meditation of self, which is Brahman, and takes you from there to Jivan Mukta stage and how it is reflected to Pralabdha, and then the nature of Videha Mukti, who is free from Prarabdha, and then annihilation of vasanas, gnosis, dissolution of mind. And he talks about various types and stages of mukti in Saptabhaumikas, the 7 stages of mukti consciousness. And then he talks about the 6 samadhis. There are different types of samadhi, starting from Drishyanuvid, Shabdanuvid, and all that. And then he talks about how it's implemented through the caste and varnas, order of life, varna ashram here. And then he takes you to the karma siddhant, which is your sanchit karma, pralabdha karma, and agami. And then he talks about the gunas pertaining to karmanis, bhaktas, jnanis, and yoginis. So what are the attributes of these 4 category of people? And then he shows him the universal form and the attributes of the universal form, and he takes it to Tarak Mantra, the Pranava. And there he talks about the matras and all that. And later on, he questions him about Mahavakyas. We discussed about 4 Mahavakyas and the sequence of it. And then from there, he talks about 9 chakras. Then a refutation of 8 siddhis, which we just discussed. And finally, he talks about the expanse of vidyas and the nature of true teacher. Wow. I like, can you imagine Ram like a good teacher giving you the whole synopsis? And then it's like a carry on notes. Here you go. Now check mark what you have done.
In fact,
Somebody asked me about the Upanishad. I'll just flash that and just to share. These are the 10 Upanishads which were recommended. Even Swami talks about them. Even Bhagavan Baba has mentioned about them. Even Ram recommends it. And these are the most like popular. Even Adi Shankaracharya used these 10 to promote Vedantic philosophy. Anyways, yes, open it to you.
Yeah, so one thought that immediately comes to mind when we see the summary is that we should go back right to chapter one and start reading this again and again. Because this is not very easily achieved, right? So therefore, multiple readings of this. Okay, one thing here is that you can use these 17 episodes that we have done here to also take. Um, there is echo. So also take, so adjoining notes in the sense that, when we spoke about the Jivan Mukta stage, we have also mentioned a few Upanishads here and there. So there are also notes, throughout our 17 chapter journey that we did, where you can make use of to complete, in a way, complete your reading, and to get your mind around this whole huge chapter topic of, Brahma Jnana that Swami talks about to Hanuman, right? So that is one recommendation I wanted to do. I am going to do that certainly. So a serious sadhaka should certainly do that.
Yes, I think beautiful. That's a great point. In fact, there are, as it is said, there are around 54 Gitas that are available, readily available for any sadhaka to refer. Now, amongst all these, I think this is one of the largest Gitas that is given by the Lord to a devotee. Of this has 1,000 verses. Probably it is one of the largest Gitas that are directly spoken by an avatar to Hanuman. And just after this, Ramachandra speaks to Lakshmana. I mean, after this, in the sense, the next Gita that gets delivered after some point of time in the life span of Lord Ramachandra, the physical body of Ramachandra is the one after this comes is the Ramagita to Hanuman, in which there are only 62 to 70 slokas. One of the shortest Gitas that were delivered.
That's to
That's to
Lakshman.
Lakshmana.
Yes. So it is actually the same Ramachandra is now, if you have to compare and contrast, Rama could have actually, and Rama could have actually ended the entire discussion probably with one or two lines if had he wanted, but he took all the pain. So it is to each one. If we look at the entire Ramayana, there are four Gitas that we come across, the popular ones. The one is the Ashtavakra Gita, which is the one that is given to Janaka by Ashtavakra. Then other one is the Vasishta Gita. Then Ramagita to Hanuman, Ramagita to Lakshmana. Now, if we keep these four, if we compare these four one against another, there are actually four different varieties that the Brahma Vidya is actually taught. uh, Hanuman receives it to Ramachandra after getting prepared. Life has actually prepared him. Rama prepares him he prepares that vessel to be fit enough to receive that supreme essence of the self. Lakshmana now comes, he gets prepared differently. He drops away Sita. The only attachment apart from Ramachandra, the only attachment that Lakshmana had was Sita. Even that Rama chips it away from Lakshmana mercilessly. He sends Lakshmana to drop away Sita in the forest, and when he returns back in that Agni, when Lakshmana catches Rama's feet and they're crying, in that, to overcome that suffering, Rama gives him, in the pretext of calming his mind, he gives Lakshmana Gita. Essentially, Lakshmana, devoid of all attachments, receives the Lakshmana Gita. But on the contrary, we see Rama acting as a student and eliciting the knowledge of the self from Vasishta. There he actually plays the role of a student and he pulls out the knowledge. And now, when we go to the Ashtavakra Gita, Ramachandra is absent in a physical form, but through the supreme consciousness, he inspires, as supreme consciousness, he inspires Ashtavakra, and he also inspires Janaka to receive the knowledge. And thus, we have a very different form of Gita there. But amongst all the four, the the most detailed, that actually is applicable to day living, is Ramagita, that is given by Ramachandra to Hanuman. Ashtavakra Gita or the Lakshmana Gita, rather the Rama Gita is given to Lakshmana, or the Vasishtha Gita. They are extremely philosophical in nature, and in the sense they are very Anubhava Jnana. It is more of Adesha, it's an order that is given, and instruction is also so it. And in one of the talks, one of the spiritual philosopher, scientist, he kind of distills, he says, in if you order it in the degree of compassion, on the top is Ashtavakra Gita, where it is merciless. Is Ashtavakra is not bothered whether the student is receiving or not. He is directly hits him on the core of the subject. And Vasishtha, below it comes Vasishtha Gita, where Vasishtha is actually in the Supreme Self in the form of Vasishtha is actually checking whether Rama is understanding or not. And after that comes Lakshmana Gita, where Rama is telling Lakshmana it is like a bombing. But out of all the four Gitas, the most compassionate one, the most detailed, where the Lord has taken all the efforts to detail out every question, he actually waits, he responds for him, for Hanuman to raise the question and then respond, is this Gita. It is actually the epitome of Rama's patience, epitome of Rama's compassion, and I think we should only be grateful that Ramachandra has allowed us to go through such a wonderful Gita office.
See, when I compare with Lakshmana's, the version which is given to Lakshman, my assessment is almost 10 chapters of this Gita is the
Yes.
first verse of Rama Gita to Lakshman. So Rama presumes Lakshman to have those 10 chapters done before he could deliver him Atmagyan. So imagine the starting point. But now when you compare it and look at a contrast with Bhagwan Baba, avatar of this age, what he did. And as we were discussing in our journey through that, we found that Bhagwan Baba has not given just one discourse on Bhagavad Gita. Obviously, the one session of 32 discourses are compiled as Sai Baba Gita, which is available for everybody to read. And that is, I would say, one of the most phenomenal documents and a beautiful contemporary interpretation of Gita. You can find it there. But as we are looking at it, Gita Vahini, Prashnottar Vahini, and even the poems written by Bhagwan, that we were discussing the other day about love is my form.
Yes.
All of that is Gita. And we saw how beautifully Bhagwan was conveying the same Atma Tattva through all of this. So here we have got quite a choice, if I may say, to read. Because Gita Vahini, when somebody reads for the first time, I would just, my perception is that it may sound very easy to read, but you may switch off in the middle while reading it because it is deceptively easy. And the moment you start pausing, you start realizing the gravity and the depth of each statement. But if you seriously start reading it second time, you will not be able to read more than a paragraph in one go because it is so beautiful, so deep. And if you are studying it with somebody, then obviously one chapter can take you a month to finish because that is the beauty of Vahinis of Bhagwan. Because these are for the audience who may not be aware, these are the only documents that Bhagwan has written on his own. So Avatar of the Age has written these Vahinis by himself. Rest all is his talks, discourses which have been converted into books. But Vahinis are penned down by Bhagwan. So you can imagine how significant, how precious, how important these Vahinis are. So Gita, Rama Gita is one, but we have, that is also discoursed by Ram. Bhagavad Gita is discoursed by Krishna. We have Sai Baba Gita discoursed by Bhagwan Baba. but we have documents written by Bhagwan, Gita Vahini, Prashnottar Vahini. And Raju, that day we were discussing and we realized that Prashnottar Vahini was like a duplicate of Ram Gita's portion. So it is so beautiful that how Bhagwan captures, even the sequence of presentation was similar. So it is so phenomenal. Anyways, I open it. Let's, anything, Jagdish, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so one thing here, no discussion of Gita is complete without we falling back on Gita Acharya. So there are so many Gitas, but who is Gita Acharya? He's Lord Krishna. So there is one reason for that. So I just wanted to add that one Gita in the list of Gitas that brother mentioned, right? The reason being that so for why Gita? Again, it is a platter of various techniques. It's of various paddhatis in which the Brahmagyana has to be achieved. So you take Bhakti Yoga or you take Karma Yoga, all of these are paths finally. And if you talk about the other Gitas, they talk a little bit about Sankhya Yoga. For example, in our particular case of Rama Gita, it talks about Sankhya Yoga, it talks about the world and the enumeration of the world, that it is made up of so many things and such things. And then all of a sudden it jumps into Brahma Vidya, right? It doesn't waste any more time. But Bhagavad Gita is not like that. What Krishna delivered is not like that. It is also, I would say that it is also a presentation for a lesser intellect than Hanuman, uh, like the mundane selves that we are. It is more for us because it gives us a platter of different paths as to what all can be taken to attain the ultimate. Right? So that
You
is
look at the student. Look at the student. In first you have
right.
Hanumanji. Next you have Arjuna. Third it is we.
Yes.
So
Totally. That's why we have to be indebted is again a small word, because if it is only due to Swami, and only due to Swami, that we are even able to think about all of these, or do any of these sessions, or we are our portal to spirituality is Swami. Okay, otherwise, probably if Swami were not in my life, I would have certainly not been. I would have been probably, in some other place trying to enjoy more mundane existence than doing a satsang like this, right? So, gratitude to Swami, comes through in every of these sessions from the heart. So, that's the only feeling with which any of this is possible, right?
And brother, just to add two more points, probably if anyone is interested, whoever is listening, they can take it up further. In 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 writing Vahini, Swami says that one of the, or rather the two primary qualities that someone who is approaching these documents should have is, one is respect and reverence, that this is the word of God, that this is the word of the Supreme Self. Approach it with that respect and reverence. Second, approach it with the intent of gaining knowledge of the self, not to use it as an instrument for speeches, not to use it an instrument to display knowledge in debates. Unfortunately, many of us uh, do it knowingly or unknowingly. These becomes reference documents for our speeches, for our debates, for our stories. But that is like using a diamond as a paperweight. It is again like the siddhis that Hanuman asked Rama, and he got kind of very softly rebuked by Rama. So we have to, with these two qualities, primary qualities, with if we have these and approach these documents, they reveal, this is as we had discussed earlier, the word of God is actually, word is God. These are living documents. Each word of Rama when you look at each of those poems, it's actually not a poem, it is not the sentence, it's actually Rama. It is Rama in that form. He's actually speaking to you, he's telling you, and the book reveals itself. It's like, there is a uh, uh, there is a philosophy in if you go like 20 kilometers from my place, there's a now it has become quite a tourist spot. Earlier it was a den of all thieves, and you go there, you will find in old Telugu there's one saying that's actually kind of chiseled on the walls, on the rocks. It says that to a sincere thief the house reveals itself of its riches. So so if it is, if the sincerity can make even a lifeless house to reveal its riches, the sincerity and devotion of the heart can make these living documents reveal riches that are far more valuable. In fact, the value can never be measured. Each word or each phrase, it kind of unravels. There is one that, no, for me, one personal experience is, I was wondering how, what is the way in which this uh, the instincts, where are they stored, how do they work. And Rama and Brother Abmani and me, when we were discussing in his room, and suddenly it struck me one line where he read out the way, probably in the way which he read out, or probably because the intensity, it just struck me that where he says that is like the veena that is being played, the prana has the five prana, apana, udana, samana. In one of the udana vayu, these imprints sit, and when the live breath goes, it's like the drum beating, like the live breath is beating, and that beat is happening, and because of that, the instincts jump. And that's when you see something, and you have a very different way of reaction for each one. So two people are seeing a same sight, but one is actually is frightened, one is actually, other person is enjoying. Why? It is because the instincts that are there. And how is this working? It is stored in that udana vayu, which is regulated through your breath. It was such a revelation for me that I have personally searched so many places, but out of, and in fact I had given up. I thought I'll not find the answer, but out of nowhere, one single phrase of Ramachandra revealed an answer. This is a personal experience for me. I'm sure like this, each one of us have many such beautiful experiences, but this is one very striking thing to me. And if we if we approach these documents with that sincerity, with that fervor, I'm sure the document reveals itself, its all its beauty and glory.
Thank you, brothers. And I think this is from from an academic perspective, I should say, this is the closure of Sai Ram Gita. And we will, from next episode onwards, we'll continue with our Sai Ram Katha, in which we had half completed about Sri Hanuman. And now Hanuman has reached Lanka, and that is where we'll restart the story and see how Bhagwan has beautifully described the journey further of our beautiful character, the hero, Hanuman, in Ram Gita. Sorry, Ramayana. So we'll look at that from next week onwards, and we pray to Bhagwan to continue blessing us and giving us this wonderful opportunity to serve. And I request all the viewers to please share your thoughts. And in case you feel something can be done, or some sections you want to highlight, please feel free to tell us, and we'll try our best to bring it forward. So thank you, brothers, and Sairam. Sairam, everybody.
Sai Ram.
Sairam. Sairam.